David Fincher's Fight Club tells the story of a nameless protagonist drowning in everyday life and consumer living.
Like so many others, I had become a slave to the IKEA nesting instinct.
He has no sense of self and is betrayed by the companies that promise such a thing. But he isn't even aware of their deception. So much so, he considered himself
Close to being complete.
His lifestyle of an endless consumer has robbed his life of any genuine meaning.
How embarrassing. A house full of condiments and no food.
He has so many accessories for life, but no life to apply them to. That is, until he meets a man named
Tyler Durden. Let me tell you a little bit about Tyler Durden.
The narrator's chronic insomnia and inability to consciously change himself causes his subconscious to invent a way for him to change vicariously through Tyler.
Tyler, I don't understand this.
You were looking for a way to change your life. You could not do this on your own. All the ways you wish you could be, that's me.
It's Tyler that helps the narrator to loosen the manacles of the consumer lifestyle.
So fuck off with your sofa units and string green stripe patterns. I say never be complete. I say stop being perfect. I say let's evolve. Let the chips fall where they may.
The narrator wants to be somebody, and Tyler says to him,
How much can you know about yourself if you've never been in a fight?
because of Tyler's idea of self-discovery through violence, the narrator goes along with it.
Motherfucker!
Thus we have the early signs of Tyler's philosophy. In my opinion, his credo in the early stages of the film is best given in the line,
Self-improvement is masturbation. Now self-destruction.
the blank space perhaps left with the words is the answer. This idea is even presented by the narrator himself early on in the film.
I found freedom. Losing all hope was freedom.
This self-destruction goes deeper than the physical.
By the end of the first month, I didn't miss TV. Hey. I didn't even mind the warm, stale refrigerator.
The narrator's old self is being dissolved in 537 Paper Street, and then smashed and flattened into the concrete hosts of the fight clubs. The next development in Tyler's credo, and the one that will be most analysed in this video, comes in this.
What is this?
This is a chemical burn. It'll hurt more than you've ever been burned.
Tyler moves on to conquering the fear of death.
First, you have to give up. First, you have to know, not fear, know that someday you're gonna die.
It's this lack of fear that's important. Tyler makes it a mission of his to conquer the fear of death in order to obtain a spiritual freedom. And the best way, in his view, to conquer this is to hit bottom.
I'll say this about Marla. At least she's trying to hit bottom. It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything.
Once you hit bottom, where even dying is no threat, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. In this scene, Tyler also makes mention of God.
We don't need him.
Which brings me on to this book, The Future of an Illusion by Sigmund Freud. Critics persist in describing as deeply religious anyone who admits to a sense of man's insignificance or impotence in the face of the universe. Although, what constitutes the essence of the religious attitude is not this feeling, but only the next step after it, the reaction to it, which seeks a remedy for it. He calls the religious attitude a remedy, a medicine for the terrifying notion that man is totally insignificant to the universe.
You are not special. You are not a beautiful or unique snowflake. You are the same decaying organic matter as everything else.
With or without us, the universe carries on. So what is our purpose? Why are we here? Where do we go when we die? Religion, in Freud's view, remedies these existential fears. We were put here by God. Our purpose is to serve him, and our reward for this will be eternal life in heaven after we die. Religion is a reaction to our fear of death. Freud goes on to say, the man who humbly acquiesces in the small part which human beings play in the great world is on the contrary irreligious in the truest sense of the word. Here, Freud plainly states that if you humbly acquiesce, if you bow before these giant existential questions and realities without fear and without the promise of afterlife, then you are the opposite of religious. So how does this relate to Fight Club? In the scene from earlier,
We don't need him.
We don't agree.
Fuck damnation, man. Fuck redemption. We are God's unwanted children. So be it.
Tyler and Freud seem to agree. Freud then goes on to propose that, now that God was a single person, man's relations to him could recover the intimacy and intensity of the child's relation to his father. This is no secret really when one considers the first line of the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven. We also have this idea reinforced by Tyler.
Our fathers were models for God. If our fathers bailed, what does that tell you about God?
Which brings me on to my next point. The narrator grew up mostly without a father.
I don't know my dad. I mean, I know him, but he left when I was like 6 years old, married this other woman, had some other kids.
So it's natural for him to subconsciously look for a surrogate, and Tyler seems to fit this mould. We see instances of Tyler being put on the pedestal of a father by the narrator.
I'm 6 years old again, passing messages between parents. I'm all alone. My father dumped me. Tyler dumped me.
He did this every 6 years. He goes to a new city and starts a new family.
Fucker setting up franchises.
Tyler had been busy, setting up franchises all over the country.
Freud proposes that a child loves God like their own father. Then we have reason to believe in Tyler being somewhat godly to the narrator, and the evidence does not end here. There are small instances, such as the line,
In Tyler we trusted.
however we have more evidence in the line,
The hysterical shouting was in tongues, like at a Pentecostal church.
The Pentecostals believe that once baptized, one may be gifted with the ability to directly contact God and to speak to him in tongues. What would the final rule of Fight Club being?
If this is your first night at Fight Club, you have to fight.
We can assume everyone pulsing in this crowd has fought and are now speaking in tongues, so we can view the fights themselves as baptisms. This also parallels with the Bible passage. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. You cannot just believe, you must be baptized. You cannot just attend Fight Club, you have to fight. So if our fathers are our gods, and Tyler is like a father to the narrator, you could say that Tyler is something of a god to the narrator as well. And what does Tyler want to achieve in the first half of the film? To not fear death and be free. And what does Freud say about achieving this state? You no longer need God.
Okay, you are now firing a gun at your imaginary friend near 400 gallons of nitroglycerin!
By the end of the film, after Tyler has spiraled out of the narrator's control to the point of organising the demolition of several buildings, and after the narrator realises he needs to stop Tyler, he knows what he has to do.
My eyes are open.
The narrator fears death so little he sticks a gun in his mouth and pulls the trigger.
Oh yeah, I'm okay.
He has truly conquered the fear of death in this action, and because of this, his surrogate father and God, Tyler, dies, and leaves him at last. And with the context from The Future of an Illusion, we understand this illusion's future a bit more.